Hi everyone, my name is Lydia and this is what I wish they taught me about econometrics and introduction. In the previous video, we learned how to produce a regression output by using Stata. In this video, we're going to do exactly the same thing in R, just so that you can also see the differences between Stata and R. Keep in mind, R makes you ask for things explicitly, so certain information will not be given to you directly, but you will have to ask for it. Also keep in mind, in order to use R, you need a little bit more information on libraries and packages that you have to have reinstalled beforehand to get like certain types of visuals. So keep in mind, this video is not so much about learning how to use R, but it's about getting the minimum product, meaning the regression output. We're going to use the same built-in data set that we had in Stata. So in this particular case is cars. You can either write it in the commands or you can write it in here where the rest of your code is. If we just run and make use of data, then we'll see it appear in our environment. The next step would be to run the regression. So we want to run it. Keep in mind, in Stata, the output came directly in R. You actually have to assign the entire output to a variable, to an object, and then call the different elements of that object. So that's why in here, we're going to have a line that looks like model, and that will encapsulate all of the numbers and the information out of this regression in here from the data set empty cars. Okay. So because you have included like data empty cars here beforehand, you don't necessarily need to put this in here. However, because of habit, keep in mind, just the data is being added after every regression to make sure you're using the correct data set. So if we run this regression in here, you'll notice that we don't have here a table because we're just assigning all of the information into this model element. The rest of the information now we'll have to call it. And the way to call it in R is by using the summary code, which is summary of the model. Once we run this, we'll see the table that we had in the previous video where we showed all of the different elements. So the call formula in here, all of the residuals block, the table block, and then the legend for the stars, and ultimately all the residuals R square and F statistic information. So this is literally the equivalent now of the Stata's regression output. You have all the coefficients, standard errors, t-values, p-values, R squared, F statistic. As you can see, the econometrics hasn't changed, so our numbers are exactly the same. It's just when it's showing that it's changing or how it's showing. To change the regression, you just change the formula. So as we did with Stata, for instance, if you wanted to get rid of any of these elements in here, you simply delete it, you rerun it again. Now all the information that was in model has been rewritten. So if we ask for the summary of it, now we're only going to have again 2 lines with explanatory variables. So same logic, just different syntax. Again, in R as well, the order literally does not show. So instead of having the initial order, if we instead had AM, HP, W, like the weight as last, if we run the regression, we'd see exactly the same information in the summary. As you can see, the variable that had 2 stars, which initially was the second line, now it's the last line because we gave that same that ordering. If you want specific like results, like specific bits of information, like the confidence interval or R squared or adjusted R square, they are given to you right here. But if you wanted them specifically, because all of that information is saved in this object model in here, you can ask, well, I need a summary from the model, and I want the element R squared, and I want the element adjusted R squared. So if we run those, then we see the same exact numbers that we had in here, but asked more explicitly. Stata prints most of the stuff by default. R just makes you request what you need. So you also have to know a little bit the abbreviations of the elements that you need in order to ask for those specific elements. Okay. Unlike Stata, the R does not show the confidence intervals by default. So if we wanted that, just as shown in the previous video, in here we can write, I want the confidence interval of this particular model, run it, and we'll get exactly the confidence interval for all of the variables in here. Okay. Now, common mistakes in thinking. If you're thinking R is doing something different, keep in mind it's not. R just separates estimation, output, and extraction as like three different layers. The econometrics behind it is completely unchanged. So you might have to work either with Stata or R depending on your course. Just keep in mind the econometrics will not change based on any of this software. I hope this was helpful. Now we know how to run the regressions in Stata, regressions in R, and we know all of the elements that are produced by both Stata and R. So you should be ready for the next step, which is how do these results get presented in academic papers and also more in-depth interpretations on all of the numbers. So stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video.